where are we set up for where the microphone is? Oh my God. Oh, it's right in front. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, let's come over just a bit more. We can squeeze in a little. Jade, can you direct? Yeah, I think. Yeah, come in a bit. Yeah, okay, get comfortable. We've all been here for a long time.
Where's Camille?
Yes, I'm looking for her. Melissa, can you find Camille?
Yeah.
Is the speaker on, Amanda?
I could turn it on. Are
Okay,
you ready?
excellent. Yes. Yeah. Let's. Yeah, I will. But I'd like to get the press a bit more squeezed in. Can we actually get everyone who's on that side to just squeeze in a bit? We just want to get leadership to be in a bit more of a U shape. We want to make sure that everyone's visible. This is a significant day. It's a significant time. Thank you so much. Anim Bonjour, Nibi Ziatigikwe Nadishnikas. My name is Jade Harper. I'm the communications specialist for the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs. Thank you to the press for coming today, and thank you to all the leadership for being here. We have a list of speakers, and we are going to start with Grand Chief Kyra Wilson from the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs. We will take questions at the end for 15 minutes. And for questions, if you can just identify your name and the media outlet that you're with at the end, that would be great. Thank you very much.
I think we can turn this up.
Yeah, just a little bit.
You got to turn it up.
Yeah, it's full blast.
That's full blast?
Yeah, they just got to speak a little closer and a little louder into the mic.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Hello. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming here today. Thank you for being here. To everyone that's watching. Today is such a beautiful day. I acknowledge all of our leadership. I acknowledge our elders, our knowledge keepers, and thank you to all the leadership that has come here together from a number of different treaty areas. My name is Kyra Wilson. I'm the Grand Chief for the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs. And so today we're here to send a message. And the message is that First Nations people, we are the first peoples of this land. And so as we all prepare for the arrival of the King, you know, we need to acknowledge our treaties. And like us here, as First Nations leaders, we understand. We understand the treaties, we understand the relationship that we have with our nations, with our lands. And so right now, as we expect, you know, the King to arrive here in Canada, and we're here on Parliament, you know, we think about our relationship with this government, with Canada. And so the message, you know, that we have here today is that our treaties, they're sacred to who we are as First Nations people, as our nations, as our families. And we need to begin to move forward You know, we've been talking about our treaties for generations. We've been talking about our treaties and the sacred obligations that this country has to our First Nations people. And so when we stand here today, you know, the most important thing to recognize is that we always hear about nation to nation. But when we get ready for the throne speech and where the king is going to be speaking, our leadership have not been invited in those spaces. Our leadership need to be a part of these spaces. As First Nations people, we are going to be a part of these spaces. We are going to be a part of these spaces moving forward. And so I do have a message, you know, today for Canada. You know, our treaties are with the Crown. Our treaties are with the Crown. And so the relationship that we have with Canada is to understand how you're going to work with us. You know, not the other way around. You know, we were here well before treaties were signed. We've been here since time immemorial. We've been here since day one. You know, and when we think about our relationships to the land and to Turtle Island, you know, we have that connection. And so when we think about the treaties were signed because we had said to any settlers that are coming into these lands that you can come here and you can live with us together in a good way, and we will share this land. And that's what the treaties were about. They were not about signing any rights. They were not about signing any land away. They were not about relinquishing any rights as First Nations people. So our relationship with the land has been here even before treaties were actually signed. So when I think about tomorrow, the throne speech, we are getting ready to move ahead, move forward with our relationship with the Crown, and just thinking about what does that mean for Canada. And what that means is that Canada is no longer making decisions for our people. And that's something that we've been dealing with for generations and for quite some time. And so there needs to be a renewed relationship with Canada. They need to understand our rights as First Nations people, as the first peoples of this land. And I believe that we can accomplish that as long as Canada is willing to respectfully come to the table with us, because we have our own tables. We have our own tables. As you see here today, our leadership that's standing here, we represent many nations from across this country, from across Turtle Island. We represent so many nations. And we are always going to be strong. As First Nations people, we're always going to be strong because we will come together and we will fight for our families. We will fight for our people. And it doesn't matter who is in government in Canada. Yes, we want to have a working relationship, but we will never, ever stop speaking for our families and protecting our nations. And so as we hear across the country right now, this rhetoric about separatism and all of that, nobody has the right to talk about that. As First Nations people, we are the first peoples of this land, and anything that happens in this country, you need to come and talk to us, because we are the first peoples of this land. And we are not going to go away. We will only get louder. So I want to say Chimegwech to everyone that's here, our leadership. I acknowledge our leadership, and I appreciate everyone that's here. And I look forward to hearing messaging from the rest of our leaders, and thank you so much. Miigwech.
Miigwech, Grand Chief. And I would like to invite up Grand Chief Greg Desjardins from the Confederacy of Treaty 6 Nations.
Honesta. Kasi minananas ka mga butawin o, kananas ka mga tuwins ka, minananas ka mga niyong macho ni Migoy ano tahaski. Atamskat now kaktio. First and foremost, I give my gratitude to the higher power. I thank him for the life that he gives us here on earth. I shake hands with each and every one of you. You know, my name is Chief Greg Desjardins, Grand Chief of Treaty 6 Confederacy. Also, the Chief of Frog Lake First Nations Treaty 6. you know, and we're known for the Frog Lake Massacre. You know, it's sad, but today our people are still being starved out and we're being forgotten. You know, one day we were a seventh generation, you know, and we have to think about the unborn. You know, and today is a very historic day for our people. You know, and the king, or the head of state, will be here today. This has not been done in 50 years, since 1977 when the head of state has read out. I think that what's happening here today, coming together, is something huge for each and every one of us. You know, on behalf of the Treaty 6 nations, we thank each and every one of you for standing behind us in solidarity as the talk about separation happens in our province. You know, I want to acknowledge each and every one of you. First of all, the pipe carrier that lifted the pipe today, or the pipe carriers who said the prayers and called upon the ancestors and those that went before us to help us, to guide us, to share a vision and to guide us the right path to a bright light for our people. I want to thank the drummers that led us here today, all the chiefs that are here, you know, and all the nations that stand behind us that are not here, to light your smudges at home, to say the prayers that to the chiefs who get the audience with the king, that their words come out with power and that they're heard. You know, there should not be any talk about separation, you know, and our people need to be at those tables. It's about time that they respect and honor the treaty. Today I wear this treaty uniform to remind and to educate our white brothers. You know, you see the yellow. As long as the sun shines, the buttons, the equality of our people to the crown. You know, and these are the things that people don't realize and understand. You know, this uniform has so much power that a red surge has to salute me every time he sees any of us who wear this suit. That's respect. We have to get back to the respecting of the treaty, honoring the treaty, not the history, what our people have went through. You know, today we think of people like Harold Cardinal, Elijah Harper, the former leaders that brought us to today. You know, and I want to acknowledge, you know, once again, the people who thought of us 7 generations ago to guide us, to help us. You know, and we work together collectively, unified. You know, and what the governments have done, they have brought us together to be in solidarity, to be one heart, one mind, to fight together for the kids, the ones that I've seen standing in front here. Them are the ones that we're fighting for. You know, and when the king comes, I ask for blessings for the chiefs who will be at that table, to share a powerful message, to remind the head of state, to remind Canada and these provinces. You know, without that treaty, there was no Canada. Without that treaty, there was no provinces. You know, we offered to share the land, the depth of a plow, nothing beneath. This land was never sold, ceded, or surrendered. There's no words in our vocabulary or the Cree language, the Dene language. You know, and I'm thankful to be on this land here. You know, and the hereditary chiefs of this land, you know, we thank you for hosting us here today. And I thank the chiefs behind for standing with us. With that, we ask for a blessing for all of you, even those that are at home. You know, and that a door opens for us from here moving forward. Something good for all our people. With that, we ask Creator to bless each and every one of us here, and the chiefs behind me, their families, all the counselors that, and all the people that work to get us to the day. So with that, may Creator bless each and every one of you. But I'm grateful.
Miigwech, Grand Chief, and next up we have Dene National Chief, Northwest Territories, Regional Chief George McKenzie.
Masi de kuri azon saka na sesa na es goda sa hotkosi sezera masi de kuri. I'm very grateful. I'm standing here in front of the crowd with all the chiefs behind me, the ones are listening back home. The elders are listening back home. And the young ones, the elders tell us there's no word for generations in our language. But they say that young ones we don't see today. And this is what it's all about when you think about it. Canada became a country the First Nation allowed to happen. They came overseas. They brought their family, their cattle, farming the land. The First Nation did not tell people that came, if you're not happy, go home. First Nation never said that, will never say that. An elder, my auntie passed away, became the first Grand Chief. She told me, remember from this day on, you are a chief, young, but you are our father. All the chiefs are everybody's father. So my auntie said, because you are our father, we're all one people from the Creator in heaven. So don't forget that. You look everybody the same, treat them the same. And that's the message we're sending to non-Aboriginal world. Support us in what we're trying to do. We are today this privileged society, people on our own homeland. And the king is here. The king, the first thing that should have went on their mind is, I gotta meet with the First Nation. I have to meet with the First Nation. It's a proper protocol of respect. That's what should happen. There's lots to be said, but I'll never forget the story of our elder chief for 40 years. For 7 years, Indian agent kept going to him, trying to put our nation on a reserve for 7 years straight. The old chief, Chief Jimmy Bruno, got tired of it. Last time he went into his tent in the bush. He was waiting for him. He walks in again. This is how it should be. He told, before he says anything, do you have a father? And the Indian agent said, yes, good. Go tell your boss, if they want the land, ask their father for the land. Don't ask me. Leave us alone. So, with our treaty, leave us alone. We're not bothering you. We're not saying leave the country. We're not saying that. But respect. The sun rises, the grass grows, and the river doesn't flow backwards. We're here to stay. For sure, we're here to stay. One last note. Most people from the Northwest Territories, that's how our elders told us to dress. Back home in a cold country, we have hundreds of trails. Those trails were made by our elders for us to work on. Some of us, we still work on it. We do our harvesting on those trails. And those trails, those lands, are tied to our treaty rights. We can't touch it. Nobody should touch it, but respect it. And I want to say thank you to all the people who are gathered around here and the ones who are tuned into the media. Masi so.
Miigwech, Dene National Chief, my apologies. Next we have First Vice Chief David Pratt from the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations.
Thank you very much. Tamska Tinawa, Nawago Gumatik, David Pratt, Nasigusan, Muscapiring, Ochinia. First of all, I acknowledge you all today. I greet all my friends and relatives. My name is David Pratt from the land where they call Muscapiring, or the earth where they call Muscapiring, in beautiful, unceded, unsurrendered Treaty 4 territory in Saskatchewan. I want to acknowledge the unceded, unsurrendered territory that we're standing on right now, the Huron and Algonquin people, for them having us in their territory too as well, upon which these parliament buildings are built. I want to acknowledge all of our chiefs that have come across this country to gather today on such an important occasion as the King's visit. I have a few messages I want to deliver on behalf of Chief Cameron, on behalf of the FSI and the 74 First Nations in Saskatchewan. Number one, our message is to the King, King Charles. We want to remind him of his obligations under treaty. We want to remind him to continue to uphold and respect the treaty relationship that his great-great-grandmother, Queen Victoria, signed with us. When all our chiefs and their predecessors years ago agreed to share this land. It's not supposed to be a one-sided relationship where Canada would dictate our lives by the Indian Act and other pieces of foreign legislation. It was meant to be a respectful relationship where we would continue to live our lives, practice our treaty and inherent rights of hunting, trapping, fishing, and trade amongst one another. It was not meant to be what it is today, which is the oppression of our people. So we want to remind the King, our chiefs want to see him. Our chiefs want to see the King to remind him of his obligations under treaty. Number two, our message is to Canada. We want to remind the Canadian state of their obligations under treaty. We want to tell Canada, Prime Minister Carney's been elected today. He acknowledged three things when he was elected, three nations. He acknowledged the English people when he went to England. He acknowledged the French people when he went to Paris. And he acknowledged the First Nations too of this land. The three founding peoples of Canada. He recognized them. We want to call upon the government of Canada to stop fighting our people in court and start implementing and honoring the treaties. Direct his Minister of Justice and Attorney General to conclude the deal on long-term reform on child welfare, to fully implement the treaty right to health, education, and justice. We call upon Minister Olti, as she's taken the role of CERNAC, to reopen the treaty tables, to come and sit with our treaty commissioners in Saskatchewan and Manitoba, and deal with us in good faith, as what the ministers agreed to when we touched that pen 150 years ago. Three, we want to send a message to the premiers of Alberta and Saskatchewan. There will be no separation. Two, we call upon those premiers, Premier Smith, Premier Moe, and Premier Canoe, to fully work with us on repealing the NRTA, which we believe is a breach of treaty. When we touched that pen, our chiefs only agreed to share the depth of a plow. We were told it was for agricultural purposes and settlement, that the Queen's subjects were going to come. So we agreed to share. It was not meant to be what it is today, where the provinces in Western Canada continue to develop resources in our own backyard while we live in poverty. That's not right. This building right now, they're renovating. $4.5 to $5 billion is what Canada is spending to renovate these buildings while our elders live in rotten, moldy homes. That's not right. So we speak to the premiers. There will be no separation. And fourth, the message to our own people, to our chiefs and to our people across Turtle Island that are listening far and wide today. Let's stand together. Let's continue to be united. Let's continue to build upon the good work of our previous leaders, such as Harold Cardinal, David Ahenecue, Elijah Harper, that have took that stand a whole new generation. They say difficult times will bring out the best in leadership. And that's what I see here this morning, all these bonnets. So the media, the message I want you to carry out there is that we are still here. We are still practicing our culture, ceremonies, and our languages, and we want to continue to thrive like the rest of Canada. So Kache Megwich, thank you very much. Ahaw.
Oh, miigwech, miigwech. Next up we have from Treaty 8, Grand Chief Trevor McCready.
Good morning. Good morning. First of all, I want to thank the pipe carriers this morning for their prayer, the drummers that brought us in, the chiefs, the council, the leaders, the people here today, and especially our Treaty 8 chiefs that have traveled a long way to be a part here of this assembly today. It's important to understand why we're here today, why we bring everybody together. We're not here for a holiday to come and shake hands with the king and take pictures. We're here for very serious issues. Right now we're united all across Canada. When we talk about separation of the provinces, we understand that that cannot happen. It may seem like we're promoting and protecting the provinces themselves when we're saying Alberta cannot separate. That is not true. We're simply protecting our rights and letting Alberta know, Saskatchewan know, that they own nothing, that these rights and these lands are ours and always will be ours. Now, legislation that passes through our provincial legislature and what happens here at Parliament are impacting our rights each and every day. We have no recourse. We have no way to stop it. They have everything put in place to weaken our nations. However, our nations are very strong. It's been 125 years since Treaty 8 has been signed, and we're stronger than ever. Why do I say that? It's because we understand. We fully understand what is happening today, as do the leaders here. There's talk of separation, and that's fundamental. It's a fundamental issue because of our treaties. And when we see talk of separation, it's outright disrespect to our people in the treaties. In Treaty 8, it's the largest treaty in Canada. We have 24 nations. There's billions, if not trillions of dollars taken out of our territories every year. None of it comes back to our nations. Yet you see around here today all these buildings, all this infrastructure, all the construction that was mentioned earlier. Where's that money coming from? Taxpayers? Where are the taxpayers getting this so-called money? It's coming off of our lands and off the backs of our people. And today it's got to stop. We're here today, yep, we don't have an audience with the king. That is a problem. We have chiefs coming from all across Canada. He's flying 7 hours. Some of us flew 7 hours to be here. And some of us took a lot longer to be here. It takes time and money and effort to be here. To come this far and understand that we don't have an audience with the king is very, very disheartening. When there's legislation being passed at the provincial level, we have a lady, a lieutenant governor, that's supposed to stop some of these bills that are against the Constitution. They are not following their responsibilities. Same with the Governor General. They're trying to take our rights away. We're seeing what's happening in BC and Saskatchewan all around us, and there's a concerted effort. What are we going to do? We have to sue. We have to get together and we have to unite. The Grand Chiefs, the chiefs of Canada have to get together and we have to talk. Enough time has passed, 125 years for us up in Treaty 8. We've never ceded or surrendered our lands. It's not possible. That's why when they talk about separation, Alberta can leave with what they came with, which is absolutely nothing. There's stories in our territories of people coming starving, settlers that could not survive the winters. We helped them survive. And their ancestors had relationships with our people, but today those relationships are no longer there because the understanding isn't there that they're here because of treaty. And when you're here because of treaty, that makes each and every person here a treaty person if you're in our territories as a visitor. And when you're a visitor to anybody's house, you don't walk into their house with their shoes on, go to their fridge, take out their food and walk away. That's what the premiers are doing, and that's what Canada is doing to our people. When are we going to stop? We really need to make sure that these institutions that are put in place to protect our treaties and the Constitution are in place, and that we are forcing them to do their jobs. It's with heavy hearts that we are here today. We all have issues at home, but we're here today to fight for the most important issue of all, and that's our treaties and our lands, resources. And it's about time the King, the Prime Minister, and the Premiers fully understand. And if it takes lawsuits for them to fully understand, then that's what we'll do. Once again, thank all the chiefs for coming this long ways. It's a beautiful day. It's an honor to be here. Masicho. Thank you.
Thank you, Grand Chief. And up next, we have the Assembly of First Nations Regional Chief Willie Moore.
Answer. Lagi ito kami start na. Last ko wow. Someone do for letting us gather. To acknowledge our relatives, the Algonquin Anishinaabe peoples, for letting us gather on their territory. For far too long, our rights have been ignored. Our land's being exploited, and our people, our communities treated unjustly. That is not the true spirit and intent of the treaty. We are gathered here today, leadership from coast to coast, to remind the royal family and their state, Canada, that they have failed sacred commitment on their part of the treaty. We honored our duty. How can we move forward in real, meaningful reconciliation when the past and present has been nothing but genocide, atrocities, and broken promises? We are here to remind King Charles there will be no Canada without our people when we sign treaty. That is why we are gathered here, where the pipe ceremony had taken place, because that's how the treaty process was done. But then ask ko, I'd like to acknowledge the leadership that came to gather. And it was important for us to gather in unity, to remind that one common message, that we are here to remind the state to reaffirm our treaty relationship. We're here to remind Canada and the state that they didn't honor their part of the treaty. Those days are done. The exploitation of our lands without the inclusion and the recognition of our rights. Those days are done when policy, legislation, and law are developed for us, laws that are designed for us to continue to be poor. So with that, I just want to give the chance from one of our chiefs in Manitoba to address the delegation, the media, as to why we are gathered here as well. We'll call up Chief Derek Nipanak from the Manitoba Anishinaabe.
I'm Derek Niepenak, Chief of the Minnegozi Anishinaabe. There's about 6,000 of us Ojibways on the west shore of Lake Winnipegosis. I'm very honored and grateful and humbled by the mandate that I carry for my community, my people. Me and my boy, Ngozis Kiwaitan, he's here with me. We traveled over 20 hours to get here over land, and we're here in belief of treaty. That's all I've ever known. If there's ever hope in these great lands for a legitimate constitution of Canada, it's because it rests on a foundation of treaty. We have to wake up to that understanding. One of our great leaders this morning reminded us that we've been living in a cage. And if you look at the fencing around here, we're stuck in a cage. Treaty represents the original freedom of our people. Treaty represents a great peace that can exist here in our homelands. And it's important to reflect upon peace because the world is at war right now. And there's a genocide happening in Gaza. There's war everywhere because people won't come together and talk and live in peace and build relationships. That's what treaty represents. That's what the elders remind us of. That's what we're here to remind the king, is that first and foremost there's treaties with the original people that have to be respected. And we deserve the ear of the king when he comes to these lands to talk to his subjects. We need him to remind his subjects of the honor of the crown and the duties that their elected representatives owe to us as the original people. That's what message we hope he brings for his subjects when he speaks tomorrow. We're also here in allyship. Treaties 6, 7, and 8 are allies in the West because a threat to treaty anywhere is a threat to treaty everywhere. I'm very honored today to walk behind these Eagle staffs with the leadership, recognizing the elders who lifted the pipes this morning to get us started in the right way. I want every Canadian to remember you're on treaty land, and you're looking at the original people from these treaty lands, and we offer our hand to you in friendship and in treaty. Miigwech.
That's it. My name is G. Calvin Sanderson. I'm from Saskatchewan. I represent the Tigastapis and Band of the Cree Nation. So I'm just here to send a message for the Majesty to come to our celebrations, 150 years, Treaty 6 territory. And we also have a commemoration that happened in September 4th, 2022, to invite you to come on, celebrate with us at our last memorial powwow for our membership that passed on September 4th, and also to the government and all our First Nations across Canada. I'm grateful too that I'm standing in Parliament here to send a message. I don't have a formal letter for the King himself, but I send an invitation to you for next year, and also to ISK and the Crown Relations that are there and the Governor General. So that's my invitations on behalf of the Tigastapis and Band of the Cree Nation, and also James Smith and Tigastapis and the Federation of Saskatchewan. I go say na scoop na.
Chief, I'd like to invite next Southern Chiefs Organization Grand Chief Jerry Daniels.
Bonjour, I want to thank our Creator for a beautiful day. I'm going to ask our Youth Chief Lacey to join me here beside me, and also call our veteran here to come and stand with me, Justin. He's holding our Eagle staff. These two people represent a very important part of our people and who we are. The first message that I have is for Prime Minister Carney and the King and his son William. We are your allies. That is the nature of the relationship in this country. The treaties were a sacred covenant signed by our people, and we defended this country. We defended it with our blood, our sweat, and our tears. And before this country was even recognized, we stood up and fought in the war in 1812. And there's a statue over here not far of a great warrior named Tecumseh. He's an Anishinaabe warrior, part of the Confederacy, the Three Fires. And he reflects the defense of this country. And they stood and fought when the British soldiers were no longer there. So we defended the integrity on which this country rests its future upon. Since that time, we've signed treaties and we've continued to be allies in the face of betrayal, in the face of broken promises. And so the message needs to be clear to King Charles and to Prime Minister Carney. The same words that he uttered to President Trump: Canada is not for sale. Canada is not for sale. And if you look into the treaties, there was never mention of sale. If you look at the language of our people, there's no concept of a disconnection from our Mother Earth. There's no concept of it. And so Canadians need to understand that history, that we fought, that we will continue to fight. When the struggles present themselves for us, we will stand shoulder to shoulder and defend our children, defend the future, defend from generation to generation, on and on, for as long as the sun shines, the river flows, and the grass grows. That's who we are. Those are the kind of people we are. We are your allies. We are your allies. We are your friend. And we've showed it time and time again. And all we are asking for is for justice, for fair treatment, for the integrity of our nations to continue forever. And in that way, we will prosper. And in that way, we will sustain our relationship with the land and make sure that the land is healthy, just like we are. And so that's my message to Carney, his cabinet, to the King, is that we're your allies. Treat us with respect. Treat us the same way you would treat your family. And that is all we're asking. And I don't think it's a lot to ask when we've shared the land, when we've defended you, when we've made sure that you weren't getting sick and dying on the land in the early days when they first came. And so that's our message, and we'll continue to be here, and we will be watching, and we need to meet with the King, and we need to meet with Prime Minister, and we need to have strong conversations about treaty governments. Miigwech.
Okay, Miigwech, we have two more speakers. I'm going to invite Chief Gordon Blue Sky from Broken Head, Ojibwe Nation.
Miigwech, thank you very much. And of course, thank you, Grand Chief, for organizing this. And I'm very honored to be standing here with all these leaders from across this country, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta. You know, I'm also honored to be standing here on behalf of my nation, also as a Treaty 1 spokesperson for my communities that I represent as well. Also think that we have to acknowledge all of our ancestors that signed treaty, all of the people that we stand in front of that we've lost through overdose, all of our children that are still finding their way, lost. I, for one, is a 60 scoop survivor. I wanted to share that real quick here, because all of us here have probably survived something, or are children of survivors. And I, for one, have been trying every day I wake up for my children to never ever feel what I've felt as a kid that was stolen from his community at 2 years old and was sent down to America. I grew up in a little town outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I moved there when I was 6 years old from Winnipeg. And the reason I share that is the fact that every day that I've been home since 1995, I made my way home to Treaty 1, to Winnipeg. to my home community of Broken Head, Baskanabe-Wizibing. And from that day, 30 years ago, this summer will be 30 years, I said to myself, I want to be a leader in my community. I want to support my nation. I'm very honored that my community came behind me and supported me in being in this role. But for 30 years, I've been trying to understand and learn our struggles as people. I've been trying to understand and learn our relationship with Canada. You know, when I heard the chief earlier talk about the King Charles, his grandmother, signed treaty with us, that wasn't long ago. But yet the way we're treated is there are ancient agreements and ancient documents that have outlasted our relationship. So I was thinking about what my letter would say to the king, and I think it's very simple. My letter is going to say, honor our treaties. Miigwech. Chief Blue Sky. I think about every day that we live under this Canadian government. We think about Saskatchewan, Alberta, talking about separating. I think what this country needs to worry about is these chiefs and these communities thinking about separating. Because for me, it's not about Alberta and Saskatchewan. The relationship has to go through us. They're not nations, we are. I think it's very important that we start to understand that we start demanding, not only from the King, but also the Prime Minister of this Canada, to stop trying to eliminate us. 6-1, 6-2, second generation cutoffs. Canada's grown to 40 million people and our populations keep going down. Why is that? Why are we still standing here allowing this to happen? Why are we not standing in front of this place every day reminding the government, instead of land acknowledgements, to start taking action? You know, I look at our National Chief, I said, National Chief, when you see the King today, remind him of his obligations. I heard earlier, as long as this grass grows, Mashoma shines, and our river flows, and that's still happening today. Those are words from Creator. And I think about that, the words from Creator. That was the one thing that in that document that was reflective of the actual words that happened in our treaty times, was those statements. But we should be thriving. For as long as the grass grows, the sun shines, and the rivers flow, our babies should be thriving. We shouldn't be going through the things that you and I have gone through. We should be being stronger and stronger and stronger. We shouldn't be spending $5 billion on renovating this place. We should be spending $5 billion on repairing our relationship. $5 billion in establishing a treaty implementation table. $5 billion in making sure that the elders' homes that he's talking about are getting better. I sit here and I'm very disheartened in my job when I'm burying people way too early because of the results of an unimplemented relationship that we have with this country. I think to myself and I think to our chiefs and I think about what we could actually be if we in fact had our relationship repaired and our relationship was to take steps forward and we start to understand that we're here together. King Charles, honor our treaties. Miigwech.
Okay, and our last speaker we have from the Anishinaabe Nation, Grand Chief Alex McDougall.
Ngagagweta kwatun kini non de gato na mo bang bang ina ta chikitan. Ma ngekit nakuma semanto ga tona ma bang kini non ma chibizang. Sebando nakutang kini non tama ga smichiga bokta guye kwe kaga no chigatek kita sistema gunnan. Iwa hamigeni non ezak tang kwe dakinan. Dem kondo amen ni chance nanak. Weet niet gaan weet ik kom staat te maken ik ben gaan op maat wat maar gaan op bizar kwe en gewoon dat mag gewoon ik ga gaan dat mag ik ga King Charles mag hebben taxing ik ga nog zeg niet kids ik ga niet zeggen dan gewoon dan dat is te maken ik is zo af en toe toon zijn heel iets jaar die mensen maar Kevin maat ons op maat wat Kanin when it's a good tamahad and Snan Magayan. Me nundan steek na kwe gono chuguma khanag maga pugano nuwe guma khanaga gatwat kumsumnanak kchamnanak yegaz kanon nuwe khazga gem khazm nuwe kwe gonen wega unse uma bizai pandogan utama gononan kebentonan hega we khatuta we khawe Canada you engage it very quickly, my name is Alex McDougall. I'm the interim Grand Chief for unceded from northern Manitoba. His leadership here standing behind me are respected leaders from our communities, and we're standing here in sovereign and unity of the actions that we are here to communicate to Canada and King Charles. We are believed to be a product of colonialism, a product of imperialism, as Canada continues to profit from the rich resources of our home. This is our home, and we all need to live off of what our home provides us. But yet we live in third world conditions in our communities, while those that have enjoy the resources that it takes without honoring the treaties that our grandfathers agreed to when the first immigrants, visitors that were running from their governments, mind you, came to this land. So we're here in support of our AMC leadership, our AFN leadership, to say to King Charles in Canada that we're here to stay and we want to be recognized as such, as being the owners of this land, our home. Amigate. Thank you.
It's been noted and requested for one more speaker, and it's really important for us to hear from women leadership, because we have a lot of incredible First Nations women leadership. So I want to invite Chief Christine Long John from Sturgeon Lake to speak.
Good morning, my name is Chief Christine Long John from Sturgeon Lake First Nation, and I acknowledge our Creator first and foremost. I want to acknowledge the pipe carriers and the ceremony that took place this morning. I am from Treaty 6 territory in Saskatchewan, and we are going to speak on behalf of our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren, and those that are not born yet. We have treaty obligations within our communities that have been unfulfilled. We have a housing crisis within all of our communities right across Canada. We see our relatives sleeping on the streets when we have $1 billion renovation going on, and yet we don't have the proper housing within our communities. We see the medicine chest clause unfulfilled with the healthcare systems that we have. When the treaties were signed, there was an agreement that we would continue to live and prosper with what we had and with enhancements on their side. Today we still have all of our ceremonies, and we still gather and harvest and pick our medicines and hunt. We still do all of those things that our ancestors did. In Sturgeon Lake and around Sturgeon Lake, we have carbon dated 11,000 years ago. There's a carbon dated place that's been carbon dated 11,000 years ago. Imagine that. Our ancestors lived and breathed on these lands 11,000 years ago. So when our treaties were signed at 149 years ago, those are still very new relationships that we have. And so when we come here and we want to voice We want an audience with the King on behalf of our children, on behalf of our grandchildren. We want to make the future brighter for them. We've seen the generational trauma that has happened within our communities, whether we're talking about the residential schools, the 60s schools, all of the tragedies that have happened, and yet we're still here. And the reason why we're still here is because of the prayers that our ancestors continue to do on a daily basis. It's those ceremonies that keep us grounded, and we're going to continue that and continue to work together in unison through all of our nations. Working together, we can make better relationships for our children and our grandchildren and children to come. And I just want to make mention that in Sturgeon Lake we are building Shirley Bighead, New Dawigi, and Good Child Rearing Lodge, and we have yet to get sustainable funding. We have our own traditional law of child rearing practices that we've now brought into the lodges and blessed. So those are our laws on how we are going to raise our own children. We just need the support. And so with that, on behalf of all of the women who are the life givers, and when they are bringing life, the water comes first. And so we need to respect the water as well. And that's written in the treaties. As long as the sun shines, the grass grows, and the river flows. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, you good? Excellent. I should have learned that you never say one more. But we have, I do want to invite one more leader up here, and then we're going to have just a few questions. If media, if you would like to ask a question, I'm standing over here. If you can just come see me. I'll call up Chief Joey Pete from Sunchild First Nation.
Ante, ani, ambuasne, okay. Joey Pete, si kason. Maga, ganak kawe. Sunchild, unse, ni know, wasa, unse pizza. Ma, kapi, giget doange ni know, ani ziga pewapataman. Ani ziga, kawe mazaskinigui, ga kanagego. Gama we know nagatu kiat ani se musum sinani ko kom nani ka ginagat the mot kego mi se kego ko ni kat taming maga unis sin maga wap magag ko ma wak ko itiong gutsa kama mo kamatiat so go munia sak Gama miga petuta moat. Ki no tagagi mazna minga. Gama we no. So go away stew gama kinga sin gazot. Nia wege. Ki no tagi we tapimiguin. Gawin. Unia sak. Ki no ta niskagi mazna minga. Maga nigan nute nakuminne. I just want to say good morning and thanks to everyone that did the pipe ceremony, to our Grand Chiefs, Grand Chief from Treaty 6, 7, and 8, all our Grand Chiefs, I'll just say, and to all the leaders that are here, to all stand in solidarity for what's important to us, and that's treaty, and we have to continue to fight for what our ancestors left here for us. And I know many of you chiefs already discussed a lot of things on treaty, but we cannot forget the land. Back home, we are fighting for our mountains, and there's a coal mine trying to happen back home, and we can't let that happen. It's going to destroy our water, our entire ecosystem. So I just want to remind Danielle Smith and her whole separatist how would you call it, a circus. I'm just glad to say that all the chiefs spoke on that, and I acknowledge you guys from the bottom of my heart, because back home it's going to affect our ceremony grounds, it's going to affect the lands that our ancestors practice on. And I just want to say, without everyone's support here and the unity, how are we supposed to move forward if we don't all have one mind, one voice, and one heart? Baga, I thank all of you for being here. Let's give a round of applause to all the chiefs that are here, all our elders, pipe ceremony, and I just want to acknowledge my council that are standing with me. And one of our hereditary chiefs is here too from back home. I know he's not written down, but I want to call him up here. His name is Jimmy O'Cheese, because back in the day they didn't have to be written down. You know, these are the natural unelected leaders. So we should acknowledge that here today, because they are our true leaders. So Jimmy O'Cheese, Astam.
Miigwech kinanakumanim at sinagihino and snappy gigit. Nanaskum tinawagyaga ni Hioik. Nanaskute nanotsumuta. I just want to go right into it. I wore this hat because of my great grandfather, Chief Pontiac. Chief Pontiac has made treaty, international treaty, back in 1763 and 64, reaffirming the treaty that was signed with the Dutch and the Haudenosaunee. There was over 2,000 chiefs that gathered at the time, traditional chiefs, hereditary chiefs before the imperial crown in Treaty 1-11. So I just want to say, I still hold that seat. I still honor the spirit of intent of the treaty, when they said, long as sun rises, long as water flows, long as the grass grows, long as there's native people of this land, because our own origin comes from this land. Cypress Hills, I don't know if any one of you have seen the symbol that the Creator himself put on the land. The symbols that are written in the mountains by, not in textbook, but in symbols. So if you ever go to the mountains, look for your image. Just like that status card you have, there's a picture there, but it's written in the mountains. We didn't do that, Creator did. So when my great-grandfather made this international peace and friendship treaty with King George III, he made sure that he honors the Creator's creation. That's why he made that treaty with our white brothers and sisters in our homeland. Well, I just want to remind the King, because him and I, we have outstanding business to be talked about, because that's not been on the table. So I just wanted to say that today. Let's not forget that treaty, that spirit of intent with our own constitution, with our homeland. This land here, we're part of this land, and we can prove it. It's a symbolic agreement that was made with the Turo Wampum Belt, and King George III recognized that Turo Wampum Belt. And it's still under the international treaty. Out of that, there's a Royal Proclamation of 1763 and 64, and the Medallion of 1764, we have that. Just like the Medallion from Treaty 6, back in 1876. So anyway, I just wanted to say, I'm not elected official, but I still carry that pipe, the constitution of our land, and the flag, which is the eagle staff that's here. The hat that I'm wearing, which is my great-grandfather, Chief Pontiac. Yes, we fixed it up, but we still use the feathers. And this was the treaty that was signed back in 1763 and 1764. Out of that, there's a Royal Proclamation, the highest treaty in Canada, if not in the world, international sovereign treaty. So there was over 2,000 chiefs that gathered a treaty at Niagara Falls to make that treaty. And you can study it, you can look at it in I don't want to say history books because I just talked about longest sunrises, longest water flows. We're not history. We're still here today. Same people that were here back in 1763 and 64. But I just wanted to say, let's not forget that treaty, because it's still here. And that's why I'm here to remind the King, because it's back to that King, King George, that agreed to that symbolic agreement. Out of that, it's two row from out. Out of that, there's a medallion. Out of that, there's a Royal Proclamation of 1763 and 64. So I just wanted to remind you leaders, do not forget that treaty. Because that treaty was there before Treaty 1 to 11. Because that's the spirit of intent. After that, we all know, after Treaty 1 to 11, our potlatches and our ceremonies, which is our governance, were outlawed. They were banned. So, banning our spirit of intent of treaties. Remember that. See, we're not supposed to rewrite treaties. Why did they say longest sunrises, longest water flows, longest the grass grows, longest there's native people, if we have to rewrite treaties? Again, no government can decide because we share this land. If the government says they own this land, I want to see a document that says the government owns this land. Or even better than that, land of bill of sale. Right? So that means we share this land, the resources and everything that come from the land, we share 50-50. So somewhere out there you have Indian trust money that goes all the way back to when the treaties were signed. They must have accumulated interest. That's why no government's going to give you $1,000 of their own money, never mind the millions of dollars that you get from the government, because that's your Indian trust money. I just wanted to say that, and let's protect the future generations, their future of their homeland. So miigwech. Hey, hey.
Miigwech. Okay, we do have two questions from the media. We'll start with the Canadian press. Alicia, and if you can just let us know what your question and who it's for.
Am I just like yelling it out? Yeah, just yell it out. Sorry, my voice is not going to be super high. Or you can use the mic. No? All right. A lot of you talked about the honor of the crown in your addresses. Last week, we learned that Canada is telling the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal that they don't want to consult anymore on child welfare reform. I got a response from Indigenous Services Canada yesterday that they're not committing to introducing water legislation within 100 days of Parliament, which was an ask from all of you. Should I ask it again?
Yeah.
Sorry. Hi, Alessia here from the Canadian Press. A lot of you, when you were speaking, talked about the honor of the crown. Just last week, we learned that Canada told the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal that they don't want to be negotiating indefinitely on child welfare reforms, basically telling the tribunal to let them out of it. I got a response from the department yesterday, from ISE, that says that they didn't commit to introducing water legislation within 100 days.
Really close.
They didn't commit to introducing water legislation within 100 days, which is what a lot of you asked for. What does that signal to you about the priorities of this government as it's opening up today?
wants to answer?
Thank you very much. Thank you for your question. First of all, definitely yes. We all know the challenge that we faced on long-term reform last October in Calgary. We do call on Prime Minister Carney, and we have been told from internal sources that it will be a priority of his government. I know Minister Mandy Gull will be the new minister in charge of that. So we're ready to move forward with them. We do have the new National Children's Chiefs Commission in place. Their work has started. They're already working on a framework agreement to settle with Canada. We want them to come to the negotiating table, and we're ready to get a deal done. You know, so we know that that's a matter of business that is a priority for FSIN2, and as well as a number of leaders across this country when it comes to settling that long-term reform. Because we want to get long-term reform settled. We acknowledge the government for getting compensation done, the 19.2 billion. I think it worked out to 20.2 billion when they did the final numbers. So that work's done, signed off. The compensation will start rolling out pretty quick here. But now we want to settle long-term reform. And then once we're done long-term reform, we're ready to go. So that's my message to Minister Gull, is that we are ready to go. Work with the National Children's Chiefs Commission at the AFN. They are working on a framework agreement that we can get that long-term reform finalized. But also, we want to work on Jordan's principles next. So there's two big agreements we want to get settled. And number one is long-term reform. That's a priority. We're ready to go. And number two is Jordan's principle right after that. So the table's set. We need the minister to come, and let's get a deal done for our babies and for our children's future. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I'll just make this very brief. So when we talk about legislation, all too often we're not at the table as First Nations people. So what I would like to see as a collective, our First Nations coming together, and we're creating our own laws, and we're giving it to Canada, and we're saying this is our law, and you need to respect that, and you need to acknowledge it. And so that's how I see us moving forward when it comes to Jordan's principle, child welfare, health, education. All these laws need to come from us when it impacts our nation. So I'll say that. Miigwech.
Kelsey Nacheth from Coal Lake First Nations. We talk about long-term reform. You know, AFN is an advocacy group. You know, we're kind of struggling, to be honest, with the MOU, how we work with them. I'm from Alberta. Alberta is still claiming jurisdiction over our kids, and it's not right. We never ever gave up jurisdiction over our kids. We never ever had an agreement with Alberta. So they're stepping out of line. And when it comes to water, Thui Chuk Tui, that's the spirit of my people. So if they're not consulting us, right? I spoke over there, talked to the steering committee. Biodiversity is changing. If they're going to plow stuff forward, you can't forget about the environment. We have species at risk are still dying. So if anything, we're going to probably end up in court. With true reconciliation, we can work without the court. So we shouldn't be struggling in our own country. But when it comes to water, water is life. When we first come, that's where we come from, woman. So we're not going to go anywhere, and hopefully we don't end up in court, because that's only the way I think we get hurt sometimes, end up in court. So they have to do a better job, this government. So thank you.
Miigwech, Chief, and we have one more question from APTN. Fraser.
Thank you. Fraser from APTN National News. Based on this trip that's pretty short by King Charles, as far as I know, there's no meeting with First Nations leaders. Is that not a major oversight by the planning team here? And if you're able to get a meeting with the King, he is in a ceremonial role, but what would you want him to do in terms of with Canada and furthering treaty recognition and reconciliation, I guess?
That's open to any leadership that would like to share.
Thank you very much for that question. I think the biggest message we'd have to King Charles is to honor the treaties. I think it's important that, you know, his great-great-great-grandmother, Queen Victoria, touched the pen with all our chiefs and their nations for treaty. We agreed to share the land and to be allies. And I want to build upon the comments of Grand Chief Daniels. We didn't only defend them in the War of 1812. Twice last century, in the World War I and II, even though we were exempt from conscription by treaty, the biggest ethnic background of volunteers was First Nations people in Canada. We went even though we were exempt. Why? Because our ally, the Crown, was under attack. So that would be the biggest message that we'd send to him is meet with us, sit with our leadership, and I think we need to really have a meaningful discussion. And when he talks to Prime Minister Carney, which he does all the time as his Prime Minister, he needs to instruct him when they have those audiences and those conversations on a weekly basis to sit with our leadership and to really listen with them on implementation. Grand Chief Wilson talked here a little bit about legislation. This government committed in the past to implementing UNDRIP. They need to do that in every sector. Where's the report card? How are they doing on implementing UNDRIP across the board in every sector? So that's something that we'd call upon the King to instruct the Prime Minister, meet with us, but also to instruct his First Minister to as well for Canada to come and sit with our leadership and to hear our concerns. Jim Miigwech.
King Charles represents, he has a very central role in this country. He represents the honor of the Crown. And that honor was taken away when Canada absolved legal representation for First Nations in 1927. Then, in the 1930s, the Westminster Act was passed in British Parliament. And the Westminster Act gave authority to Canada. It recognized Canada as its own country. This was after the British North American Act. And during that time, we couldn't challenge legally. And so we were held back, and lawyers were threatened with imprisonment. And so that was very important to understand when you think about all of these legal conscripts and all these acts that are now in place that continue to oppress our people, continue to obstruct the recognition of our rights. We don't need rights from Canada. We had an agreement for land and jurisdiction that we would share. We only need our jurisdiction in our land. We can govern ourselves. We can create our own licensing regimes for the land. We can welcome in new Canadians. We can do all of the governing responsibilities that Canada still assumes over us. That is unjust and is the reason why First Nations in this country are continually under attack. There's a reason why we are the lowest in the social-economic status in this country. Meanwhile, we're the true owners. And so we got to get back to that. And that's my message to the King. The Westminster Act was not legal. We didn't have the ability to challenge it. His Parliament did not show the honor of the Crown. And if he can't recognize that, then maybe we need to start thinking about an age after the monarchy. Because if the treaties are not being respected, then what is the point? What is the point of having that relationship if we're going to continue to see that kind of treatment in this country? We need to start to see the change, and I hope that the King sees that. I want to just let my youth chief say a few words as relates to that, because when we're talking about Jordan's Principle, when we're talking about the negotiations that are occurring, it has to be on the side of First Nations. We have generations of underfunding, generations of theft of these lands, and we still see it today. So it's important to hear for our young people. So I want to give our youth chief a couple moments.
Bonjour, Ninka Kinawe, Amino Gijigan. The Bekam Makusandishna Cosmoconda and Makarezi Dunes. However, my name is Lacey Bird. I'm 16 years old from Black River First Nation, and I'm the Southern Chiefs Organization Female Youth Chief. I didn't really have anything prepared to say, so I'm going to speak from the heart. So what I wanted to say is that the youth are very aware of what's going on in today, and we don't want... Okay, wait. We're very aware of everything that's happening, and we don't want to have to keep fixing the mistakes that the government keeps making. We as First Nations people shouldn't have to keep doing that. And another thing I was going to... say. Another thing too is that Jordan's principal shouldn't have been cut off, because I was in action therapy and it was helping me heal from everything that happened to me from when I was younger. And I feel like that's a right that shouldn't have been taken away from our youth. So,
that was it. We do need to sing our flags out.
Yes, it's important that people know the king, the prime minister, the ministers, the provincial premiers, NWT premiers. I heard a comment recently. Yes, we speak about the Aboriginal people. We speak for the Aboriginal people. We're there for them. That's not what we're asking. Some of us are self-government. Let us make our own mistake. Don't make mistake for us. Don't speak for us. Don't speak about us. Bring us to the table. Let us be at the table, Masijo.
I know, we do. This is absolutely our last speaker. We do have a lot of elders up here, and we do need to get the day on. We are going to have another press conference tomorrow after this speech from the throne, so please keep that. This is Chief Andy Aluk.
So first of all, I want to acknowledge the Creator, God, higher power for this day. I also want to give a huge shout out to our youth chief that was just able to speak. I myself, being a younger chief, also acknowledge the treaty and understand the importance of it. We understand that the languages that we come from, the lands that we come from, and the treaty relationships that had been established by our forefathers, our ancestors, our parents, our grandparents, and everyone before us, had made a commitment not only to the future generations, but also to the unborn. It's important that the king and any of his descendants also understand the importance of our treaty relationship. And we know that that relationship is broken today. But as First Nations people, as Chief of Big Stone Cree Nation, I come here to Ottawa to also reaffirm that relationship, also educate and give understanding to the people of my nation. There's over 10,000 of us from coast to coast in Canada, abroad, in Australia, in the United States. And it's important that those people abroad as well are also acknowledged and understand the treaty relationship that we have and are continuing to build. As we stand in Ottawa here today, it's important that we continue to not only come to this country and explain who we are as First Nations people, but we also have to continue to come back and inform and educate our membership, acknowledge our leaders and the leaders before us that fought and did the work that we're here to also acknowledge and continue to fight for. I was born Cree, I'll die Cree, but I'll also understand and acknowledge the treaty relationship that needs to be also respected by the Crown and anyone else that comes after him. But with that, just wanted to acknowledge everyone here today for continuing to support the First Nations chiefs across Turtle Island. Hi, hi. Thank you.
I'm going to invite the singers up to sing our flags out. And I would just ask leadership if you could stay behind. We would like to get a picture of everyone together. Thank you so much for sticking it out.
Good evening, everybody. I'm just going to get Wilton to explain the song we're going to sing. We're going to ask everybody to come in and join us. We're asking for all of your support coming from Treaty 6 Territory 7 and 8. But we have a song that we want to sing, and I'm going to get Wilton to explain it real quick. It has a really beautiful significance to it.
Thank you. Nigan gakyaw tatamskad na. Eu como ga hingamon. Skoe kan mine kopek. Kapskut sa opisim dipia. Ego maskusia. Oma mine skoe hon ko patena o. Ego pasta. Ego ame hingamos tamako ego. Taksketa mego gumina. Ito is chige on. I just wanted to add that you heard from our elders, our spiritual leaders, our leaders, chiefs, headmen, about the treaty terms. So long as the sun shines, the grass grows, and the river flows. There's a fourth part of that, which is a song. It's a treaty song. And it goes to say that Her Majesty, the Queen, presented us with the flag. And so long as the flag waves in the wind, that's so long as our treaty will last. So for the flag song here, it's very important. So thank you very much.